Welcome to The Golden Life, hosted by Asset Management Group, myself, Andrew Nida, with Moise. My man, how you doing?
I'm good. Had a great night last night.
You ought to be good. Not just from last night, but because you just returned from Costa Rica.
That's right. Yes, my wife Amber and I took a week-long vacation to Costa Rica. So it was amazing. I mean,
Yeah, you can't beat that.
We did everything. Went to a local farm. Went on it's called the Mystic Bridge. It's called Mystic Bridge, and so it's like 7 hanging bridges over across the rainforest.
Oh, that's crazy.
And you know Amber. Oh well, you don't know Amber is afraid of heights.
Oh yeah.
And so that first bridge, man, she was.
Oh, it's good. It's good to get tested, right?
She was tested, but it was an amazing trip.
Poor
amazing
Amber.
trip.
Yeah, Costa Rica's like it's got a little bit of everything.
It does.
It's got the volcanoes, the mountains, the rainforest, the beaches. And you guys saw a whale too. Like that's
we saw
crazy.
A family of whales. That
Yeah.
was amazing. I mean, everyone on the beach was just, eyes focused, locked in, phones going. Because I mean, they were pretty close.
Yeah,
They were
yeah,
really
for sure.
close. Good videos from it.
Yeah. You know, when we went to Costa Rica, it must have been probably, I guess 2022. I think it was year 2022, and it's we used to live there.
Yeah.
Obviously, I know Amber's mentioned that to you. We used to live there when we were kids, and then of course, so we grew up kind of going back from year to year. Dad being in the mission field, getting back and doing some mission work there in Costa Rica, country of Panama. But Costa Rica was, it's just like, I don't know what it is. It's the culture, the people, or what, but it's like a place that, I would love to own property there one day.
Yes.
Just kind of like an escape, if you will.
Yes. Yeah, Amber and I, we're all in. We're all in. So
I'm
yeah,
sure you are.
So we're looking at possibly getting some property over there and using it as a vacation spot, but also Airbnb-ing it.
There you go.
And I mean, it's my third time going. She's lived there, so it's gonna be part of our life for a while.
Yeah. Well,
how you doing?
I had an eventful week too. I traveled through COVID and stayed right here in my house.
Yeah.
No, we man, got hit with COVID a little bit, but that's okay. Can't keep us down. Amy got it, unfortunately too, but she's back on her feet. So
good.
Yeah, back out. It's hard to tell the difference between a sinus infection and COVID and a flu at this point.
That's right.
just. Regardless, though, what I have figured out is that if you go see a doctor, at this point, it's just a matter of knowing what you have, and they send you right back home.
Send you back home, yeah.
Yeah, like just get over it,
Yeah,
So
there's nothing you can do at that point.
Right. So now we've been doing good, and it's been a good start to the year, though. Here at the firm, obviously we've been working on a lot, and this is one of the new things that we've been working on is getting to a place where we could deliver high quality content. Not to just people in our community, but also to any of those that would like to join our YouTube channel and our podcast show. And so it's been an investment to get to where we are now, but I'm hoping this is one of many high quality shows that we're able to deliver just to the general public.
Yeah.
High quality education, good content, not just about the markets and not just about equities and not just about investing, but more so life in general, challenges that we may face, obviously with a core centric focus on finance, but, just people, really.
Yeah, I mean, I think that all encompasses in the name The Golden Life. It's not just about money. It's what that money can do for you, but also just life in general, right? I mean, how to live a purpose-driven life and a life that's just more about not just you, your family, but your friends, your community, and overall, bringing in, encapsulating all of that into a fantastic life, not just today, but moving forward.
Yeah.
So yes, The Golden Life. That's why, we chose the name.
Yeah, and I think, you're right. Finances, when it comes to money, money's a tool, and it can be used for a lot of different things. I remember, I can't remember exactly where I read this, but money doesn't actually change a person. It just magnifies who they already are.
Yes, I've heard that before. Yes.
Haven't you heard that before?
Yeah.
And so, if you're naturally a generous person, money typically makes you more generous. If you're a greedy person, money can make you more greedy. And so, money's oftentimes a tool that exposes or magnifies what naturally lies within. So, yeah, just, given some good guidance and some tools on how to just be a good steward of what you've been blessed with. And, if you have the lack of, if you will, how to make the right steps to get to a different place, different position in your life.
Yeah, I was speaking to a client earlier this week, and over the last year, his wife actually took on a new position and doubled her salary.
Wow.
Doubled her salary. And so I asked him, did you fall into the trap of new income, higher income, all of a
Higher
sudden
lifestyle.
higher lifestyle. And
Yeah.
he said him and his wife have tried to stay within the realms of the life they had before. The only thing they're going to change is the possibility of their son going to private school. But outside of that, they've kept their savings mindset, their investing mindset, and not really having all these frivolous expenses.
Yeah,
So they've done a good job.
Keeping that Dave Ramsey mentality,
Yes,
right?
yes.
Locked in. Well, let's jump in. You want to jump into just kind of a quick market recap
Yeah, sure.
of last week, and a lot of different data that came in with the CPI and PCI and earnings. There's a lot of good news. Well, I don't know if it's good news, but a lot of news anyway over the last week. So hit us off here, Mo.
Yeah, you mentioned CPI. CPI for January came back a little higher than we expected. 0.3% month over month, and core CPI was also 0.39 month over month, and that was tougher than what the market really expected or what the consumers really expected. And inflation is still that naggy irritant that Jerome Powell's trying to solve, getting back to 2%. And the markets really were shook by it. It was definitely higher than we anticipated. Retail sales were declining, and so that's another thing that we've been trying to figure out. With inflation going as high as it has been, the consumer has been still strong. And so to see retail sales drop a little bit was, again, another kind of shift that the market wasn't ready for.
Yeah, for sure. And I think, when it comes to the Federal Reserve, they came out in January and really tried to temper down the expectation of rate cuts throughout the year. I think the markets were pricing in somewhere around like 6 or 7 rate cuts throughout year 2024. And it just, completely unrealistic in all reality. And I think, the Feds came out in January and kind of like tempered expectation and said, hey, take a step back. We're not going to move too quick. If you're going to see anything, I'm reading between the lines here, but likely, maybe 1% or so total pullback in interest rates, maybe by November of 2024. So, in light of an election year, right? There's a lot of I don't know how much substance you want to put to it, but there's a lot of consistencies, if you will, that flows along with performance of the equity market, the Dow Jones, the S&P 500. In kind of 88% of the time, the S&P 500's typically up. Equities are typically up.
Yep.
The normal trend is that Q1, Q2's somewhat sluggish, and coming out of a year like 2023, where I think you and I both would agree here at Asset Management Group that equities, especially large cap growth, typically overbought at this point or priced high for sure.
Right.
I mean, I think that's fact. It hit all-time highs.
It has.
Matter of fact, just last week.
It continues to hit different highs.
Yeah, it continues to hit all-time highs. So maybe some room for some pullback potentially.
And that pullback is probably healthy,
right.
for an extent, right? I mean, historically, when you see 5 consecutive weeks of market highs, or at least positive weeks in the market consecutively, that's only happened a handful of times since I think post World War II. I think it's like 13 times that's happened. Think about that. I mean, that's
great.
That's like 80 years, and it's only done that like 13 times. So I think a pullback is natural and healthy, not a straight decline like a 5% pullback. But I think a healthy 2% pullback is probably is really healthy for the market.
Yeah, absolutely. I think so at this point too.
Get some pricing, corrections and readjustments and alignments, and get, I think some people get a little, the consumers get a little hesitant when you start to see markets hitting all-time highs. They say, well, let me just sit back and wait for some type of pullback, which can be a little, you never want to time the market ever, right? But I think it's a healthy respect for the market.
But I think also in light of, such a push in large cap growth, a lot of those earnings and a lot of that appreciation in stock price is a result of, a handful of companies.
That's right.
So it's not that every company out there is doing well. Matter of fact, if we look at, small cap companies, I think it's been the sentiment surrounding small cap and small business hasn't been that great.
Hasn't been.
Truth be told. And you look at some of these major companies that are really, we heard last year, the Magnificent Seven, some of these major companies now pushing, the S&P 500 forward. I mean, do you take Microsoft as an example? Well, Microsoft now officially, the largest company
Yep.
in the world, and I'm trying to remember, how much they make up of the S&P 500, but it's pretty darn significant.
It is.
Let me see if I can pull this up real quick. Yeah, listen to this. Okay. Market capitalization for Microsoft, now the world's most valuable company, $3.1 trillion. Okay, nearly twice the size of the entire S&P 500 energy sector.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
So you're seeing, yes, we're seeing all-time highs in the S&P, but remember, S&P 500 is a cap-weighted index. Okay, so it's carrying a lot of that momentum as a result of being influenced by some of these major companies. Take a shift to small cap companies. We said the temperament, if you will, around small cap companies hasn't been that great.
No, it hasn't.
And maybe because, and the challenge there is that, our economy ultimately runs predominantly
by small businesses.
By small business.
Yeah. Small companies have small cap companies have just been very, very, hit hard recently over the last, call it 2 years, really. It's, we saw a little bit of momentum at the end of 23. 2024 hasn't really been that much of a parade, for lack of a better words. And when you look at the pressure that lending and high interest rates and some of the banking issues that we've had, the impact that it trickles down to small businesses, the sentiment isn't really that great.
Right.
And for an investor, when you start to ask yourself, if you're a growth investor, where do you see growth over the next 2, 3, 4, 5 years? Do you want to go into this area where artificial intelligence is really starting to make a play? Largely, you're seeing the Magnificent Seven. Most of them, if not all of them, have some type of a tech artificial intelligence pull to it, and
for sure.
the market is gravitating towards it. But I would say if you are if you're an investor and not a stock picker, right, you still see some value in small caps. You're going to have to be a little bit patient. You're going to be patient. You can still scour in the small cap space and find some good quality companies. I saw a company the other day. It's a funny name. It's called, I think it's called Super Microcomputer. It's an actual name of a company.
Super. Did you read that somewhere?
Yeah, I saw it.
I want to say
It's called Super Microcomputer, and it kills it. It's killing it. It's up like 300% in one day, something like that. But yeah, there's still some value there with small caps being beat up over the last few, like I said, almost 2 years now. You could look at it as an opportunity.
Right.
Valuations are pretty low, and if you can find opportunity there, you might have to be patient, but it might turn out to be a positive for you over the next 2 years or so. Maybe 3 years.
I would agree with you. AI technology. This is just my personal opinion right here. Okay, but AI technology, as incredible as it already is with what we know about it,
right,
and what we know, at least the potential, what that type of technology can do and create for businesses, industries, manufacturing, across the board. I have to believe, at least the way that I'm understanding it, that some small cap companies now have the ability, potentially, if they leverage AI technology the right way, to compete in bigger market sizes, if you will. Because otherwise, what took a lot of resources, what took a lot of staff, what took a lot of infrastructure to go and try to gain greater cap size or absorb greater positions in the market, now can be leveraged with technology. Mm-hmm. Technology, obviously expensive, but not as expensive as manpower.
Yeah.
Let's just be honest here. So I think small cap companies, like you said, you may have to be patient, but if you're an aggressive investor, a growth investor, over the next 2, 3, 4 years, there may be, significant opportunity. Seeing the growth of some of these companies that now have the ability to participate and ultimately, fight for some of that position in the market. So I'm with you 100%. I think if you're an aggressive investor and you have the time to be patient, there's opportunity. And as a reminder, there's always opportunity out there. Here at Asset Management Group, we believe that ultimately money doesn't leave the market. It just moves from different sectors chasing opportunity or protection. depending on market volatility and market sentiment. So we're just trying to, not necessarily follow the money, but we're looking for opportunity. And when you have that type of mindset, it's there. So even though you may be afraid of large cap growth right now, it doesn't mean that we're not going to see an uptick in high quality dividend.
All right.
There's opportunity there. You just got to make sure that you're positioned well for it. And that's what we're doing here at Asset Management Group. So NVIDIA. Oh, man. What came out?
Came out. Yeah. We've been waiting. I think the market has been waiting for NVIDIA's earnings report, and they, in my opinion, blew it out the water. Yeah. Over 5% earnings per share, $22 billion in earnings for last quarter. Revenue for last quarter ahead of expectation. So,
sick.
Yeah, I mean, they are the leader when it comes to obviously semiconductors and artificial intelligence, and they've just been on a roll, and we've been on a roll. And if you going back to the conversation about being patient, if you look at the ride NVIDIA has done over the last year, 23, 22. When everything was going down, that's probably where the rolling recession we've talked about in the past. Oh, look at this! This is
a live show.
This is a live show. But when you look at the rolling recession that we've talked about in the past of technology stocks in 2022, NVIDIA was down almost like 60-70%.
Right.
And so there goes the opportunity. Did you find it as an opportunity to invest, or did you bail?
Mm-hmm.
And if you found it as an opportunity, you maybe went double down, and now you've rode this momentum wave. And so, they've done as a company, they've done a great job. They've talked about they said that, and I'm going to paraphrase this, they have more customers right now than they have inventory. That's a great position to be in.
That's absurd.
So I mean,
that's
again.
like it. Yeah, yeah. In all honesty, NVIDIA is an incredible company.
Yeah,
incredible company. With Microsoft, they came in at $60 billion of annualized free cash flow.
Wow.
Yeah, significant. Wow. I want to say something real quick that's applicable to the viewers of the show and listeners of our radio show as well, and that is. You mentioned something about the fall of NVIDIA back in 2022, right. And then the return of its stock price over that time frame. A similar trend with a lot of large cap growth companies, right. Tech companies specifically. When it comes to managing risk for you guys, that's obviously a big question. We often tell our clients the hardest thing that we do here is not managing assets. Okay, managing models is what we were taught to do. It's what we're trained to do. So building out model design, creating the models that we manage, the tax-efficient sleeves that we deliver, that's oftentimes more of the easier thing that we do here, just because we're trained to do it. The more challenging thing, though, is managing clients' expectation. Oftentimes, and this isn't a bad thing, oftentimes because clients don't even know what they already expect. Okay, so they don't even understand how they're or why they're expecting what they expect. And so when it comes to risk, over the last several years, we've all been tested, every one of us.
Right.
When it comes to being through different valleys emotionally, financially, and obviously potentially a lot of different other areas. We've all been affected by COVID. Okay, we all probably know someone that's lost someone from COVID. We all have faced financial difficulties as at least the unpredictable financial concerns when you go through something like COVID or, people losing jobs, et cetera. So when you're thinking about risk, there's so many different elements that really create this profile for a client. It's not a matter of asking a question on a scale of 1 to 10.
Yes.
Are you conservative or are you aggressive? And so I will tell you, whether you are self-managing your own assets or you're potentially working with a financial advisor, no matter what your situation is, having a tool that's really going to challenge your way of thinking ahead so that you have the ability to buy in and trust the process is significant to seeing success in your wealth long term. 100%.
Yeah.
Okay? You got to trust the process.
You have to have a process.
Right.
Right. And I think you made a good point, expectations, when I think some people have the expectation as the market moves in a linear fashion, where we've all heard S&P 500 returns over the last 30 years is somewhere around 10%, and so I think some investors think that means I'm getting a 10% return every single year. That's my expectation, but that's not true, right? We think that 10% average is an average,
Right.
and so there may be some peaks and some valleys throughout that journey, and yes, your expectation could be the return, but do you have that own self expectation of being able to handle that volatility and stay the course, stay along the process? And I think that's the behavioral finance that we have to coach our clients on is going back to the plan, reminding them of the plan, and even sometimes it's just like, okay, maybe we are taking a little more risk than you are emotionally available to handle. Your plan can handle that aggressiveness or that
Right.
growth-oriented tilt, but can you personally manage that volatility? And if not, then it's not a big deal. It's just kind of going back to the drawing board and just saying, okay, well, let's go back, revisit the plan, and then now match your temperament with your investments.
I think 100%. And having a plan is necessary,
Right.
To building that confidence and that trust and belief in what your assets are doing in response to what you're trying to accomplish financially. All right, so we have, 8 minutes or so left in the show, and we want to introduce a fun topic today toward the end of the show, which is a topic on struggles with retiring early. Okay? Now, retiring early, man, listen, we all would love to do it. Right?
Yeah.
I mean, let's just be honest. Mo's headed to Costa Rica tomorrow. Okay, mentally, but he ain't there yet.
I hear you.
Right?
That's right.
So Costa Rica. I mean, everybody has these dreams. First off, let me say, it is funny. We do this every single day. Okay, and it is very interesting to watch someone actually transition into retirement, and you would be blown away how many people actually struggle transitioning to retirement.
Yeah.
Okay, now I'm not going to get too spiritual here, but a lot of times, and we actually had a message about this. What's kind of coming to my mind? Our pastor talked about this is retirement really even mentioned in the Bible, and I think it's applicable for everybody. What I'm about to say, a lot of times we think, okay, I'm in my 30s, I'm 40s, I'm 50s, early 50s. I'm grinding. I want to get to retirement, right? But we're in a season of life where potentially we have children. Life is busy. There's things that we're not able to do. You get into your later 50s, early 60s. Now all of a sudden, your kids are out of the house. They're off the payroll. Hopefully, we're praying for that, right? They're off dad's payroll, and they're off doing their own thing. They have their own lives. They're now in the grind. And you think to yourself, well, what will I do, in retirement? And if you haven't really planned for your life in retirement, forget the financial side.
Just life in general.
If you haven't planned for your life in retirement, you might be shocked as well, being a little bit uncomfortable and trying to figure out, okay, what does life even look like at this point for me? And once again, as we introduce the show, it's more than money. It's so much more. Matter of fact, the money side of retirement is just the tool in which is going to support the life in which you want to live.
Yeah.
Right? But you have to think through that life because it's something you've never done before.
Yeah. I mean, if you think about it, we've all been programmed and have a routine of a certain time that we wake up, a certain time that we go into the office or work from home, whatever it may be, and then the time we unplug and go spend time with family, right, at the end of the day. Well, that retirement that most people are thinking about is that routine is gone. And now what do you do, right? I mean, if you think about how many hours of the day you spend at your office or just working in that environment, now you remove that. Now what do you do, right? So you have to start planning about the life that you want to have, the life that you want to live and lead much more sooner than just an end date.
100%.
Of 65 or whatever age it is. So retiring early, first of all, what's early? I'd say the typical answer you get from someone of a normal retirement is 65, maybe 67, trying to align it with Social Security or Medicare. But I would say a retiring early is probably 55 to somewhere in 60.
60, yeah.
Somewhere in that window is like a retired early statement. So what do you do?
Yeah.
You know, how do you plan for that?
I would say, okay, so first and foremost, even though a lot of people, may not be comfortable with the concept of retirement when they get there, we still all want to try, right?
Yeah. we still want to shoot for that,
It's like, yeah, I'm thinking of that song. I understand that being rich is like, it's as tough to get to heaven as walking through a camel through the eye of a needle. It's like, but I still want to try.
Still want to try, yeah.
You could buy me a boat, right? Retiring early, man, the challenges ultimately, in my opinion, number one, is obviously health insurance. That's a big struggle that people face, right? Medicare, you're not eligible unless you're on disability to the age of 65, right? So, and a lot of times maybe one spouse carries and retires at 65, but they have a younger spouse. So healthcare is obviously a challenge there. And then second to that would be just early pressure on the assets. We talk a lot about this here at our firm with our clients, but one's ability to retire is contingent on how much money they have in relationship to how much money they need, okay? It's the pressure. It's a cash flow game. That's all it is, okay? So when you think about creating a income structure inside of a plan, and you look at someone's ability to retire, it is contingent on having that asset there to fill the gap.
Yeah.
And all you're doing is starting that sooner than later. And so you're not eligible for Social Security. You now probably need a little bit more income to cover healthcare expenses. And potentially you may not have a house paid for. You may not, because you may not be debt free at that point. So there are a lot of hurdles that you have to overcome with retiring sooner. Not to mention, now the asset has to cover a longer lifespan.
Yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So these assets are really, pushed to cover yourself for simply longer because you're not retiring sooner. I will tell you, I believe that when you're looking at someone's retirement, and we could continue this conversation in the next week, and maybe even provide some answers to some of these concerns. But when you're looking at, what was I going to say? My mind just went blank. This is not good. This life.
Expenses, covering assets. No, not covering assets.
I know what I was going to say. Yes. When you are preparing for retiring and you're thinking, okay, I've got 2 or 3 years left, 4 or 5 years left. Oftentimes the contribution that you're making is not as significant as what you might think.
Okay.
Meaning that if you're not financially ready at 63 to retire from an asset standpoint, then a few years in your 401k is probably not going to get you there.
Okay, I'm with you.
You with me there?
Yeah.
Okay. Mathematically, if you quantify someone's retirement, the extra 2 years of contribution is not going to all of a sudden allow you to be able to retire, assuming everything else stays the same.
Right.
Okay. So the few extra years of saving is actually not as monumental to the success of the plan. It's the early pressure that is the biggest issue.
Gotcha.
Okay. So there are solutions on retiring early. There are ways to cover health insurance expenses. There are ways to prepare for that if that's a goal. And I think what most people want to answer, the question they want to answer, isn't, I want to retire. How do I do it at 55? It's, I want to know that I could retire. How can I get to a place mentally where I'm confident in a plan where I can say at 55, 58, 60, if I wanted to, I could?
Mm-hmm.
That's the question that has to be answered.
Yeah, I call that like financial independence, right? It's like, not that I'm going to retire, but do I have the ability to, right? And that's a very powerful point to get to, and a meaningful point to get to. That if you can answer that question, and you know the answer is yes, peace of mind. You get a peace of mind knowing that you can actually do it.
100%.
Yeah.
Well, been a good show.
Been a great show.
All right. Well, listen, we're going to wrap it up. Definitely stay with us. Come back next week. Check us out on our podcast, YouTube channel, and as well as the Golden Life radio show here in Cartersville. You got anything else? That's it?
Pura vida.
Oh, my God. Whatever that means. Retire early, maybe. You guys have a fantastic week. See you next week.